all biodiversity. We seem to forget it. My life's biodiversity journey started 5 decades ago in the Himalayan forests, when a beautiful movement started. Women of Garhwal realized that every time forests were cut, there were landslides, there were floods, and then the next season there were drought. So spontaneously they said, we will hug the trees. We will do the chipko of the trees. And when everyone said, but cutting the trees leads to growth, forests are timber mines, they woke up the world. Even before the Stockholm Conference on climate change, on environment, that forests are the sources of our oxygen, of our water, and the stabilizers of our soil. They are the preventers of floods and drought. And as they said, kya hai jangal ke upkar, mitti, pani aur bayar. They changed the thinking of science, of development, of ecology. And in a way, I went to the University of Western Ontario to study quantum theory, but in a way I went to CHIPCO to study biodiversity. It is my biodiversity university, and my teachers were women who've never been to school or college or university. And I was so happy to both be in the launch of the community seed bank this morning, because I've dedicated my life to saving seeds in the commons, preventing patenting of seeds, making sure our national laws recognize that we do not invent life. Life is not a human invention, and therefore Article 3J of our patent law, and I worked with our parliament on it, says plants, animals, seeds and their parts thereof are not human inventions, therefore they are not patentable. This is the one clause that has saved the biodiversity of this country. There's another law called the Farmers' Rights and Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Rights Act. That law has protected the farmers and recognized that farmers are the first breeders. We are the land which evolved 200,000 varieties of rice. 200,000. This morning we saw so many varieties, including the salt-tolerant varieties, which will become increasingly important with climate change. They were always relevant because you could have fish in one season and rice in the next, but the monoculture of the mind could only see only rice or only fish. So they created shrimp aquaculture and destroyed the coastline, and they created monocultures of rice in Punjab and destroyed the land and rivers of Punjab. We had saved seeds. When I started to save seeds, we said quite clearly, neither nature nor our ancestors were stupid. If they evolved a variety, it has a purpose. So we will save everything we find. We will not say, is it useful, is it not useful? Among the seeds we had saved were salt-tolerant varieties, like the salt-tolerant varieties that were in the seed bank this morning and are grown in the community where we went. In Orissa, a super cyclone hit in 1999. We had saved salt-tolerant rices. We could distribute them to farmers. Orissa farmers then distributed 2 truckloads of salt-tolerant seeds to help the Tamil Nadu farmers when the tsunami hit and devastated the agriculture. The Tamil Nadu government had said, now we'll have to have an agriculture holiday for 5 years because there is no way, with the salt on the land and the pollution from the sea, that big farmers can grow food. We said, but we have salt-tolerant seeds, that in spite of the salinity, food will grow. Within one season, cheers to the nutmeg fruit pulp. So in times of climate change, these seeds are even more important, but they're vital for our health, because the entire idea of chemical agriculture was to grow monocultures of a few varieties to sell more chemicals. That was the purpose. I've written a book called The Violence of the Green Revolution, when I tried to understand why Punjab was devastated and why Punjab farmers rose in revolt in 1984 and again last year. The economy of the land, of the soil, of the farmer goes down when chemicals are introduced. Biodiversity is the alternative. Everything that chemicals are made for can be done better by biodiversity. Whether it's, synthetic fertilizers are clumsy instruments. They're instruments of war. Biodiversity, regeneration of the soil, you can give it any name. You can call it biodynamic, permaculture, organic, natural, give it any name. We are the land of Bahuda, where we never have one word for anything because everything has many facets. Everything has many descriptions. So understanding diversity is understanding our civilization. Both the richness of our civilization of working with the diversity of nature to create abundance for our needs. Why was Goa such a prosperous land? Why is the Himalayas such a prosperous land? It's the biodiversity and the co-creation and co-production with biodiversity that gave us the abundance and prosperity. And in a way, the whole regeneration of the awareness of biodiversity is allowing us to redefine prosperity beyond fossil fuels, beyond chemicals. Fossil fuels and chemicals give an agriculture and food system that is responsible for 50% of greenhouse gases, 80% of the disappearance of biodiversity, 75% of the destruction of soil and water resources, and 75% chronic diseases. We are here partly for the health concerns of food. Food is health, and the wonderful exhibition, food. If everyone was eating like that, there would be no problems of the chronic diseases that we see. And I do hope that Goa, by conserving its biodiversity, will lead health. Our work has shown that not only does biodiversity produce more nutrition and health per acre, it actually increases biodiversity everywhere. Our soils have 3,600% more mycorrhizal fungi, which are the true creators of fertility in soil. Research has shown that 500% increase in production takes place when the fungi population increases. If you take care of the soil, that biodiversity will increase. And I was very happy to talk to the member secretary of the Biodiversity Board that you are creating a new sustainable agriculture indicator on the basis of biodiversity, both the biodiversity of the soil, the biodiversity of the plants, and I would say biodiversity of insects. Because biodiversity insects is a sure way to never need pesticides. Insects are the best control to prevent one insect becoming an epidemic and causing pest damage. On our farm, we have lots of insects. We have pollinators that are 6 times more than in the forest. And our research has shown that if pollinators are allowed to be in your field, we have a 30% increase in production. So the soil organisms, the earthworms are our co-producers. The insects are our co-producers. The biodiversity of plants cultivated, and as that beautiful exhibition shows, uncultivated wild foods. We will have to widen our biodiversity base in order to address the issue of malnutrition and chronic diseases because of the hyper-industrial processing, including the future imagination of some people who would like to make more money by lab food and fake food. And they say future farming is farming without farmers. Future food is food without farms. Future fish is fish without water and without the ocean. And given that here in beautiful Goa, you have wonderful biodiversity of plants and wonderful biodiversity of waters and fish, you will defend the authenticity of the true food system, which is the circulation of nutrition. And the circulation of nutrition which also gives us health. My work has shown that the biodiversity of the soil creates more nutrients for the plants. Biodiversity-rich plants give us more health. Biodiversity of food nourishes our gut microbiome. 100 trillion companions we walk around with. If we take care of them, the planet will be healthy, we will be healthy. If we neglect them, or we are violent with them, we let them be fed toxics, glyphosate, pesticides, monocultures. That's the beginning of all disease, and now science is recognizing it. because our minister is also the Minister of Climate Change, and we are living in a period of climate havoc, I'd like to just help remind us all that biodiversity is the reason we have a livable climate for the human species. This planet was a dead planet. The earth started to create microorganisms and plants which through photosynthesis could take the carbon dioxide, use the free sunshine, give us food, and give us oxygen. A 98% richness of carbon dioxide in the oxygen was reduced to 0.03%. The temperature of this planet from 270 degrees was reduced to 13 degrees. That cooling of the planet that comes with biodiversity is the kind of cooling we have to not just participate in, to not allow the constant devastation by climate change, but also to face the huge extremes that are predicted. You know, already 17%, look at just from morning till night. Now, I'm grateful that the rain just came in 5 minutes. It came while we were opening the community seed bank, and it came just before we were walking over for this evening function. The extremes will grow. The extremes require that we turn more to biodiversity to protect this fragile earth, both in farming systems as well in forests. And I do hope the wonderful lessons I learned from Chipko and the people of Goa have learned over the years. The people of Kerala sadly have suffered floods because their forests were destroyed. With the heavy monsoon the Western Ghats get, we cannot afford our forests cover and biodiversity of our forests to be devastated. I have been repeatedly asked, and especially when people came to know I'd be with you, Honorable Chief Minister, to please give a thought to Malay, which is your Chipko. Please take care of it. Thank you.